In the early years of the NBA, being a professional athlete was much less sustainable of a career. No matter how good you were, things could really end at any moment. In 1951, All-Star talent Bob Groza was putting up 22 points and 11 rebounds per game. Ralph Beard was averaging 17 points and 5 assists per game that same year. And by 1952, only one season later, both of their professional careers were over. In his final season, Bob Pettit put up 23 and 12. Those aren't last season of a career type numbers. Usually these abrupt career endings have one of these two explanations behind them. One, technology simply wasn't as strong and a simple injury usually meant you would never play again. Or two, the NBA didn't hesitate to straight up ban players for any sort of scandal they might be in, and back then, scandals were very frequent. Today, however, I wanted to talk about one of the few cases where one of these two explanations wasn't the reason behind the sudden end of a career. In the case of former NBA star Lee Shaffer, he gave everything away to pursue his passion of trucking, and today we are going to talk about his story. But first, be sure to subscribe. We've been growing a lot faster as of late, so thank you to each and every one of you who have joined the ride and are supporting this channel. And if you're new, we got big things on the way. Just click that little red button. And with that, let's hop straight into this. Lee Shaffer rose to stardom during his college days when he was named the 1960 ACC Men's Basketball Player of the Year with the North Carolina Tar Heels. He was drafted 5th overall in the 1960 NBA draft by the Syracuse Nationals. And right off the bat, Shaffer established himself as one of those players that really valued the money side of the business of basketball. As one of the top young prospects in the league, Shaffer just said, "Nope, I'm leaving." And he did, joining the New York Tuck Tapers of the National Industrial Basketball League. His reasoning? Well, here's what he had to say about it. Quote, "They offered me an employment contract of $15,000, and that was more than the Nationals." A couple videos back, when I talked about how the NBA used to be rigged, we discussed how the NBA used to have a myriad of major competitors that were really giving them a run for their money, and this is a perfect example of that. Shaffer was a top 5 pick, one of the guys expected to be the future of the NBA, and other leagues were just stealing players like him left and right. Be sure to check out that video after this one if you haven't already. That one kind of ties into this one as well, so if you are enjoying this one, I'd recommend watching that one after this. In 1961, the NIBL folded and Shaffer finally decided to play in the NBA. His rookie season started off somewhat slow, but in the final 9 games of the season, he went on a run where he averaged 26 points per game. The next year, he would make his first ever All-Star appearance in only the second season of his career, after putting up numbers of 19 and 7. He would score 12 points in just 19 minutes in that year's All-Star contest, and when the playoffs came around, he put up 27 points per game in the postseason as a whole, 37 points per game in the final 3 games of it for his team, and closed things out with an incredible 45-point performance in the final game of a tough-fought first-round series against the Royals, where unfortunately Shaffer's Nationals did fall short. Shaffer would never let go of that competitive spirit that he clearly displayed in his historic 1962 playoff performances. Decades later in an interview, he was still talking trash about this moment. Quote, "You know, we just missed out on playing the Boston Celtics in the playoffs one year, and they didn't have anyone who could guard me either. They would put Tom Heinsohn on me, but he couldn't even guard his grandmother, and you can tell him that." Unquote. At this point, you're probably wondering why you've never heard of the name Lee Shaffer. He sounds like an absolute NBA legend, and honestly, he probably should have been. But he would only play one more season in the league after this one, and in that year, he would only play half of the games, so he wouldn't ever play another full season of NBA basketball basketball after this one again. And if nothing I have said yet has proven the fact that this guy was an NBA legend in the making, well, after the 1964 season, he was traded for Wilt Chamberlain. Yes, the Wilt Chamberlain. There were some other assets involved, but the two big names in this deal were Wilt and Lee Shaffer. Not too long after, the San Francisco Warriors, Shaffer's new team, approached him with the opportunity of a lifetime. They handed him a contract where he'd be earning $40,000 a year, and all he had to do was sign his name at the bottom of the paper. Now, when we think of the salaries of NBA players, we consider a large contract to be sometimes even in the hundreds of millions. But let's put some perspective on this matter. It was the 60s. Every NBA season could have been its final one. Stars like Jerry West and Elgin Baylor were only earning around $20,000 to $25,000 a year, and Shaffer was being offered double that. Simply put, what he was being offered was at the time the largest contract in NBA history. However, soon after, a seemingly irrelevant factor in this whole equation would quickly become extremely important. Shaffer's college roommate was a trucker. Most players back then did have off-season gigs due to the low pay, so it seemed like a good idea to look into the opportunity of getting some sort of side hustle working for his friend's company, which was known as Keenan Advantage Group. When he looked into the possibility, however, he learned that there could be more money in this trucking thing than there was in basketball. He met up with Tom Keenan, the name of his longtime friend, and he spoke about his grand future plans to involve the company in the oil, chemicals, and land industries, and how his visions would help the company quickly skyrocket in popularity. Intrigued in the possibilities that the business might bring him, Shaffer decided to never report to camp, not even once as a Warrior, rejecting his massive $40,000 deal and heading off to Chapel Hill to get a position at Keenan Advantage Group. This means that the Warriors ended up trading Wilt Chamberlain, a man who averaged 50 points and 26 rebounds per game for the team in 1962, for Connie Dierking, a man that would play only 30 games for the team and average 8 points and 7 boards, and Paul Newman, a man who would only play 2.5 more seasons in the NBA before retiring. At the end of the day, however, I can't really even call Shaffer an idiot for making this decision. As the years went on, he slowly began to climb up the ranks at Keenan Advantage Group, working his way up to president and COO of the entire company. All of Tom Keenan's visions became a reality. The company was massively successful in its attempts to transport fuels, gas, and even food. And still to this day, nearly 60 years after this story took place, they're still up and running. Both Shaffer and Keenan are not only both still alive and well, but they're probably also rolling in money. Most older NBA players don't have this kind of luxury. Athletes back then would usually retire and continue working and living a normal life until they were old and gray. In denying what would have been the biggest contract in NBA history, Lee Shaffer made more money than he ever could have imagined. Who would have thought? And with that, we are going to conclude today's video. What are your thoughts on this story? Are you happy that Shaffer got the bag, or disappointed that the NBA missed out on witnessing another historic talent? Tell me really anything in the comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe. Every subscriber legitimately does mean the world to me, and with all that good stuff out of the way, stay safe out there.